The truth about men who live alone without a girlfriend. Have you ever walked through a busy street, seen couples laughing, friends gathering, and felt that familiar hum of society telling you something? It whispers that life is about connection, about not being alone, about finding happiness in the company of others. It tells you that being single, especially for a man, is a temporary state, something to fix, a sign that something is missing. We are bombarded with images and stories where the hero gets the girl, where success is celebrated with a partner by your side, where true fulfillment seems inextricably linked to romantic companionship. And while there's undeniable beauty in shared lives and deep connections, this constant narrative creates a powerful, often unseen pressure. It makes us question the man who seems content walking a different path. Not the man who can't find someone, but the man who, for now, chooses the quiet hum of his own space. The man who isn't chasing validation in a relationship, but building something else entirely. What is his truth? What is life really like when you choose to live alone, not out of loneliness, but out of a quiet, powerful decision to be your own anchor? Is he lonely? Is he missing out? Or has he discovered a profound strength, a kind of freedom that most people, lost in the noise and expectations of the world, never find? What if the solitude society often pities is actually a forge, shaping a man into someone incredibly resilient, deeply self-aware, and truly free? Today, we're going to look at this different path. We're going to challenge the common assumptions and explore the quiet power of the man who lives alone, guided by ancient wisdom that teaches us where true strength and peace are really found. This isn't about saying relationships are bad, far from it. It's about understanding that depending on anything external for your happiness is a shaky foundation. And the man who builds his foundation within himself, in the quiet of his own company, builds something that cannot be easily broken. We're going to uncover 7 powerful truths about the man who chooses to walk his path alone. Truths that might just change the way you see solitude, strength, and even yourself. And stick around until the very end, where we will make a step-by-step plan on how to apply this to your life, regardless of your relationship status. We put a lot of hours into this animated video, so if you want to support our new channel, please like this video, subscribe, and push the notification bell so you don't miss our new videos. Let's begin. Part 1. Masters self-reliance. Picture this. The faucet in the kitchen starts leaking. Annoying drip, drip, drip. In a partnership, maybe one person is better at fixing things, or you discuss hiring someone, sharing the cost. But when you live alone, that dripping faucet is a conversation with yourself. It's your problem to solve. You can ignore it and live with the drip, most likely driving yourself crazy, or you can watch a video, read a guide, go to the hardware store, and figure it out. This isn't just about plumbing. This is about everything. The laundry won't do itself. Dinner won't magically appear. The bills won't get paid unless you pay them. The apartment doesn't clean itself. There's no built-in support system for the small, necessary tasks of daily life. At first, this can feel like a burden. It's a lot of responsibility. There's no one else to pick up the slack if you're tired, sick, or just not in the mood. But in this crucible of necessity, something incredible happens. You learn. You learn to plan your meals, manage your money meticulously, keep your living space functional, and tackle problems head-on. You become resourceful. You discover skills you didn't know you had. You find you can handle things. Think about how much energy some people spend navigating shared responsibilities, or worse, avoiding them by relying completely on someone else. The man who lives alone sheds this dependency. He becomes incredibly competent in the practicalities of life. This isn't glamorous, but it builds a quiet, deep confidence. He knows he can take care of himself. The ancient Stoics understood this kind of strength. They believed that true wealth wasn't about owning many things, but needing few. Not in a way that meant deprivation, but in understanding that your well-being shouldn't depend on external comforts or other people constantly providing for you. Seneca, a famous Stoic, said, "He is rich who is content with the least." Living alone, you quickly learn to be content with self-sufficiency. You realize you don't need someone else to complete a task or handle a problem. You are capable. This mastery of self-reliance goes beyond fixing things or paying bills. It seeps into your mindset. You face challenges knowing that you are the primary problem solver. This doesn't mean you can't ask for help when needed, but your default setting shifts from "who can do this for me" to "how can I figure this out?" This capability makes you incredibly grounded and reliable, not just for yourself, but potentially for others when you choose to help, not because you need them to survive day to day. The man who learns to rely on himself in the small things builds an unshakable inner foundation. He stands on his own 2 feet, not because he has to, but because he knows he can. And that knowledge is a powerful form of freedom. He doesn't need someone else to navigate life's practicalities. He is his own safety net. Let's dive a little deeper into what this self-reliance feels like and what it truly builds. It's easy to think of it just in terms of chores or fixing things, but it's much more profound. Imagine a Friday night. Most people might be thinking about plans with a partner, friends, or family. The man living alone has a different landscape of options. He can choose to go out, stay in, pursue a hobby, work on a project, or simply relax. There's no negotiation, no compromise needed for the use of his own time and space. This autonomy breeds decisiveness. If he wants to repaint his living room, he decides the color, buys the paint, and does it. There's no lengthy discussion or need for agreement. This constant process of making his own decisions, large and small, sharpens his ability to choose, to act, and to follow through. This isn't selfishness, it's clarity. He learns what he truly likes, what he values, and how he wants his environment and his life to be structured, without the constant input or silent judgment of another person sharing his space. This practice of self-reliance also fosters incredible resilience. When something goes wrong, big or small, the immediate instinct isn't to panic and look for someone else to fix it. The instinct is, okay, this is my challenge. How do I handle it? Whether it's a minor crisis like a flooded bathroom or a major one like losing a job, the muscle of self-sufficiency is already trained. He's used to being the one responsible, the one who has to find the solution. This doesn't mean he doesn't feel the stress or difficulty, but his first response is action and problem-solving, not helpless dependency. Contrast this with someone who has always leaned heavily on others. When faced with a significant challenge alone, they might crumble, overwhelmed by the sheer weight of responsibility they've never had to carry. The man who lives alone has been lifting that weight daily, building the strength and confidence to carry it when it gets truly heavy. Furthermore, self-reliance is a key component of inner strength. It's the quiet knowing that you are competent and capable. This knowing doesn't come from external praise or validation, but from lived experience, from actually doing the hard things, the necessary things, by yourself. It's the quiet satisfaction of a job well done, the simple pride in a clean apartment, a balanced budget, or a successfully repaired item. These small victories accumulate, building a powerful internal narrative. I can handle this. I am capable. This internal narrative is far more stable than one based on whether someone else is there to support you. In Stoic terms, this aligns with focusing on what is within your control. While you cannot control whether you have a partner at any given moment, you can absolutely control your own competence, your own skills, and your own ability to manage your life. By mastering self-reliance, the solitary man places his security and confidence in the things that are within his power, making him less vulnerable to the unpredictable nature of external relationships and circumstances. He becomes the master of his own practical domain, a vital step towards becoming the master of his inner world as well. Part 2. Solitude builds inner strength. Society often paints a lonely picture of a man alone in his apartment, maybe takeout containers, a silent TV, a sense of emptiness. This picture equates solitude with loneliness. But the man who thrives alone knows they are two very different things. Loneliness is a feeling of disconnection, a longing for company. Solitude, as he experiences it, is a chosen state, a quiet space for reflection, rest, and profound growth. Most people are terrified of silence and being alone with their thoughts. They fill every moment, constantly checking phones, scrolling social media, binge-watching shows, making plans, anything to avoid the quiet. This isn't just seeking entertainment. It's often an unconscious avoidance of the inner landscape. What happens when the external noise stops? What thoughts surface? What feelings arise? For many, this is uncomfortable territory. But the man who embraces solitude steps into this territory willingly. He doesn't run from the quiet, he welcomes it. He understands that his own mind is a space he needs to explore, to understand, and to cultivate. This is where true inner strength is forged. In solitude, there are no distractions pulling his attention outwards. He has the time and space to think deeply about his life, his choices, his values, his goals. He can process emotions without the immediate input or reaction of another person. He can sit with discomfort, examine its source, and work through it on his own terms. Think of it like training a muscle. If you always have someone else to carry the heavy weight, your own muscles won't develop. If you always have external stimulation to distract you from your thoughts and feelings, your inner processing muscles won't develop. The man who chooses solitude lifts the weight of his own mind. He confronts his insecurities, examines his fears, and understands his desires without the filter of societal expectations or the needs of a partner. The Stoics saw this clearly. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-emperor, wrote in his Meditations, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." He wasn't just talking about a momentary escape. He was talking about the importance of building an internal sanctuary, a place you can always go to find peace and clarity, independent of the external world. Solitude is the training ground for building this inner retreat. When you are comfortable being alone, you are never truly alone. You have your own company, and you learn to make that company enriching. You read, you learn, you create, you reflect. You become your own best companion. This comfort in one's own presence is a rare and powerful trait. It means your happiness isn't contingent on having someone else around. You can enjoy social time, but you don't need it to feel whole. This distinction is crucial. A lonely man craves company to fill a void. A man comfortable in solitude appreciates company, but the void isn't there. This inner fullness is the bedrock of true strength. It means you are not easily swayed by external opinions, you are not desperate for approval, and your sense of self-worth comes from within. Let's explore the texture and depth of this embrace of solitude. It's not a passive state, it's active engagement with one's inner world. Imagine a quiet evening. Instead of the pressure to be entertained or social, the solitary man might choose to sit in silence, perhaps with a journal or simply with his thoughts. This isn't about introspection fueled by sadness, it's about reflection guided by curiosity. He might ask himself tough questions. Am I living in line with my values? What truly matters to me? What am I avoiding? Without the immediate need to articulate these thoughts or feelings to someone else, he can be brutally honest with himself. There's no filter, no performance. This radical self-honesty is incredibly difficult but foundational for growth. It allows him to identify patterns of behavior, understand his triggers, and recognize his limiting beliefs without the defense mechanisms that often come up in social interactions. This time alone also allows for deep creative and intellectual work. Many great ideas, inventions, and works of art were born in periods of intense solitude. When the mind isn't constantly switching context between conversations, social media feeds, and external demands, it can focus deeply. It can connect disparate ideas, solve complex problems, and explore challenging concepts. For the man living alone, this focused time is readily available. He can dive into a project, study a subject, or practice a skill for hours without interruption, following his curiosity wherever it leads. This deep engagement is inherently fulfilling and builds a sense of mastery that contributes significantly to his inner strength. Furthermore, solitude provides perspective. The constant rush of daily life, filled with interactions and external events, can make it hard to see the bigger picture. Stepping back, observing the world and your place in it from a quiet distance allows for a clearer view. The trivial dramas that consume others lose their power. He can evaluate his relationships, his career, and his aspirations from a place of calm reflection, making choices that align with his long-term vision rather than immediate pressures. The fear of missing out, FOMO, loses its grip when you genuinely value the time spent with yourself. Instead of seeing an evening alone as missing out on social events, the man who embraces solitude sees it as gaining time for himself, for growth, for peace. This shift in perspective is a powerful indicator of inner security. He doesn't need the external world to validate his existence or his worth. His worth is inherent, and his time alone is valuable because he is valuable. In essence, solitude is not a void to be filled, but a fertile ground for cultivation. The man who understands this cultivates his mind, his spirit, and his character in this quiet space. He becomes like a tree with deep roots, able to withstand storms because his strength comes from within, nurtured in the stillness of his own being. This is the true power. Did you know that if you are currently watching this video, you are probably a visual learner? Before we get into the next part, wouldn't it be better if you had an app specially designed for visual learners like you? That's exactly what BookWatch offers. We have animated book summaries of the best non-fiction and Stoicism books like The Daily Stoic, The Obstacle is the Way, and many more. You can watch animated videos like the one you are currently watching and also ask our AI how to specifically apply each book to your life. Check out the BookWatch app in the first link in the description below. Now, let's continue. Part 3. Develops calm and control. Walk into a room with the man who is comfortable in his own solitude, and you might notice something different about him. He likely carries a quiet calm. He's not easily flustered. He listens more than he talks, and when he speaks, it's often thoughtful. He seems stable. Why? Because living alone without a constant emotional sounding board or someone else's feelings to navigate and react to moment forces you to become the primary manager of your own emotional state. Imagine a frustrating day at work. Most people might come home and immediately vent to a partner, offloading their stress and potentially creating tension in the relationship. Or they might seek comfort and reassurance to lift their mood. These are normal human behaviors, but relying on them can prevent you from developing robust internal coping mechanisms. The man living alone doesn't have this immediate option. He has to sit with the frustration. He has to process it himself. This necessity is a training ground for emotional control. He learns to identify his emotions without letting them immediately hijack his actions. He might feel anger, disappointment, or stress, but he learns how to feel it without lashing out, without becoming desperate, without losing his inner peace. He might develop practices like journaling to understand his feelings, meditation to calm his mind, or exercise to release tension. He learns that his emotional state is primarily his responsibility. He cannot blame his mood on someone else, nor can he expect someone else to fix it for him. This realization is incredibly empowering. The Stoics dedicated much of their philosophy to mastering one's inner life, especially emotions. They taught that while we cannot control external events, we can control our judgments about them and our reactions to them. Epictetus, a former slave who became a Stoic teacher, said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." Living alone provides countless opportunities to practice this. A plan falls through, a delivery is late, a minor setback occurs. There's no one else to direct frustration towards, no one to complain to constantly. You are left with the event and your reaction. The solitary man learns to pause, to recognize the emotion, and to choose his response based on reason and his values, rather than being swept away by the feeling. This doesn't mean he doesn't experience strong emotions. He does, but he learns to observe them, understand their temporary nature, and prevent them from dictating his behavior or disturbing his inner tranquility. This emotional discipline is a superpower in a world where many people are slaves to their feelings, reacting impulsively and creating unnecessary drama. A man who has cultivated this inner calm is a steady presence. He is not tossed about by the emotional waves of others or the unpredictable nature of life. He has built an inner anchor. This makes him reliable, thoughtful, and possesses a quiet strength that is palpable. He is the master of his own internal house, and that mastery brings a profound sense of peace. Let's delve deeper into the process of developing this emotional calm. It's not a sudden transformation, but a gradual refinement that happens through consistent, solitary experience. When you don't have a partner to buffer you from your own emotions, you become acutely aware of them. That wave of anger after a frustrating phone call, the sting of disappointment after a setback, the quiet anxiety about the future. You feel them directly, without immediate distraction or someone else's presence altering the dynamic. This direct confrontation is uncomfortable, but it's also illuminating. You start to see the patterns. You notice what triggers you. You recognize the physical sensations associated with different feelings. This increased self-awareness is the first step towards control. You can't manage what you don't understand. In solitude, the man has the space to experiment with different ways of processing these emotions. He might discover that a long walk helps diffuse anger, that writing down his worries in a journal makes them feel less overwhelming, or that simply sitting with sadness without trying to fix it allows it to dissipate naturally. He develops a personalized toolkit for emotional regulation, one that doesn't rely on the presence or actions of another person. Consider the common relationship dynamic where partners become reliant on each other to manage emotional states. One person might always cheer the other up, or act as the calm counterpoint to the other's anxiety, or absorb and process the other's anger. While this can be supportive, it can also prevent individuals from developing their own internal capacity to handle these emotions. If that relationship ends, the person who relied on their partner for emotional regulation can be left feeling completely adrift and incapable. The man who lives alone builds this capacity every day. He learns to soothe himself, to motivate himself, to process difficult experiences independently. This isn't about becoming emotionally detached, it's about becoming emotionally competent. He learns that feelings are transient visitors, not permanent residents. He can acknowledge them, understand what they might be trying to tell him, and then choose how he wants to respond, rather than being impulsively driven by the feeling itself. This practice of emotional control also extends to external influences. Without the constant back and forth of a close relationship, the opinions and emotional states of others have less direct impact on his immediate well-being. He can observe social dynamics, listen to different perspectives, and interact with people without his own emotional state being easily perturbed by their drama or negativity. He has a stronger emotional boundary, not because he's cold, but because his internal space is stable and well-maintained. The Stoic concept of the inner citadel is highly relevant here. This is the idea of building a strong internal fortress that cannot be breached by external misfortunes or the actions of others. Developing emotional control in solitude is precisely the work of building this citadel. Each time the solitary man successfully navigates a difficult emotion on his own, he adds another brick to the wall, strengthens the gates, and makes his inner sanctuary more secure. This inner peace, hard-won in the quiet moments alone, is a powerful source of resilience and composure in all areas of life. Part 4 achieves true freedom. What does freedom truly mean? Is it just the ability to do what you want? Or is it something deeper? The absence of constraint, the ability to live life on your own terms, free from unnecessary obligations and external pressures. For the man who lives alone, financial and mental freedom are often profound outcomes of his chosen path. Let's start with the practical. Relationships, while enriching, often come with shared financial responsibilities and expectations. Joint bills, shared goals, like buying a house together, gifts, dates, vacations. These are part of building a life together. They aren't inherently bad, but they create financial commitments that can limit flexibility. The man living alone has full control over his finances. He decides how every penny is earned and spent. He can prioritize saving, investing, or spending on experiences or tools that align purely with his goals and values. There's no pressure to spend money to impress a partner, celebrate anniversaries, or maintain a certain lifestyle because someone else expects it. This doesn't mean he's selfish. It means he has clarity and control over his economic life. This financial independence provides a significant degree of practical freedom. He can make career changes, move cities, or take risks that someone with shared financial burdens might find difficult or impossible. But the deeper freedom is mental. Living alone means you don't have to constantly compromise your time, your habits, or your aspirations for the sake of maintaining a relationship. There's no implicit pressure to spend evenings together, to participate in activities you don't enjoy to please someone else, or to adjust your schedule to fit another person's needs. Your time is entirely your own to manage, align with your priorities, and dedicate to personal growth or passion projects. This freedom extends to decision-making. Should he pursue a challenging but potentially low-paying passion? Should he take a spontaneous trip? Should he dedicate his weekends to learning a new skill? These decisions are solely his. There's no partner whose security needs, preferences, or future plans must be factored in. This allows for a level of agility and self-direction that is rare in adult life. Epictetus taught that true freedom comes from living in accordance with nature and reason, and from desiring what you can control, which is your own mind and actions, rather than external things like wealth, reputation, or other people. The man who lives alone embodies this by reducing his dependence on external factors for his happiness and life structure. He is not bound by the expectations of a relationship, making his path his own to forge. This freedom can feel exhilarating. It's the ability to wake up and design your day, your week, your year, based purely on your own deepest values and goals. It's the quiet satisfaction of knowing that the direction of your life is entirely in your hands. This isn't about avoiding responsibility forever. It's about choosing your responsibilities deliberately, free from the often unconscious obligations that relationships can impose. This freedom allows him to dedicate his energy towards building the life he truly wants, unconstrained by external pressures, making him the undisputed architect of his own destiny. Let's paint a picture of this freedom in action. Imagine a man who discovers a deep interest in woodworking. Living alone, he doesn't need to negotiate using a spare room as a workshop, explain the mess, or justify the expense of tools to a partner. He can simply decide to pursue it. He can dedicate his evenings and weekends to learning the craft, making mistakes, and gradually building skill. His free time isn't automatically allocated to shared activities. It's a resource he can invest entirely in his own growth and interest. This dedicated focus, unhindered by external obligations, allows him to deepen his skills, build expertise, and find profound satisfaction in mastering something. This applies equally to intellectual pursuits, physical training, or entrepreneurial ventures. The path to mastery or significant achievement often requires long periods of focused, uninterrupted effort. While it's possible to achieve this while in a relationship, it undeniably requires balancing another person's needs and the demands of a shared life. For the solitary man, that time is his default state. He doesn't have to carve it out, he just has to decide how to use it. Financially, this freedom can translate into security and opportunity. Without the common financial strains of dual households or shared future planning, like saving for children's education or retirement as a couple, he can potentially save more, faster, or invest more aggressively based on his own risk tolerance and timeline. He can build a strong financial cushion that provides options, the freedom to leave a job he dislikes, to travel, to fund a personal project, or to be generous with causes he cares about. This isn't just about having money, it's about the security and choices that financial health provides, choices he can make unilaterally. The mental freedom is perhaps the most potent. It's the liberation from living under another person's implicit or explicit expectations. Many people, consciously or unconsciously, filter their ambitions, their communication, their hobbies, and even their core beliefs to maintain harmony or gain approval in a relationship. The man living alone is free from this constant calibration. He can explore controversial ideas, adopt unconventional habits, or pursue goals that others might find strange or impractical simply because they resonate with him. His identity is not being shaped or constrained by the need to fit neatly into a partnership structure. This doesn't mean he becomes rigid or incapable of compromise if he does enter a relationship in the future. Instead, because he understands who he is without a partner, any future compromise comes from a place of conscious choice and strength, not from a fear of being alone or a desperate need for acceptance. He brings a complete, self-defined person into a potential union rather than someone still figuring themselves out through the eyes of another. The freedom forged in solitude, the freedom of time, finances, and mental space, is the freedom to become authentically yourself, to pursue your own unique path, and to build a life defined solely by your own values and aspirations. It's a powerful, quiet liberation that forms the bedrock of a life truly lived on one's own terms. Part 5. Finds deep purpose. Most people chase happiness. They look for it in relationships, in possessions, in experiences, in external validation. But the man who lives alone, who has embraced solitude, often discovers that a more powerful driving force exists: purpose. When you're constantly surrounded by people, it's easy to get caught up in their goals, their dramas, their expectations. You can lose the signal of your own deepest callings in the noise of constant interaction and societal pressures. Relationships, while wonderful, inherently require compromise and shared focus, which can sometimes dilute or postpone individual pursuits. But when you are alone, the only person you have to answer to, ultimately, is yourself. The quiet space of solitude, free from the need to impress or entertain or conform, allows the gentle, persistent whisper of your own purpose to be heard. What truly matters to you when no one else is watching? What problems do you want to solve? What do you want to build, learn, or contribute to the world? These questions, often drowned out in the busyness of life and relationships, can surface in the stillness. The Stoics believed that a life lived with purpose and virtue was the highest calling. Epictetus advised, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This requires deep self-knowledge and clarity of intention. Solitude provides the ideal environment for this kind of self-examination and declaration of intent. The man who lives alone has the mental space and the time to think about these fundamental questions. He can read widely, explore different interests, experiment with various activities, and reflect on what truly resonates with him. He can identify his core values and start to build his life deliberately around them. Instead of spending his energy navigating complex social dynamics or fulfilling relationship obligations, he can channel that energy into his work, his passions, his personal projects. He can dedicate himself to mastering a skill, building a business, creating art, pursuing knowledge, or contributing to a cause he deeply believes in. His focus shifts from seeking external validation, like getting a date or being popular, to building something meaningful that is aligned with his inner compass. This isn't about being selfish. It's about recognizing that you must be grounded in your own purpose before you can truly contribute to others. A man who knows his purpose carries himself with a quiet confidence and direction. He is driven by an internal mission, not by external forces. Think of historical figures who retreated into solitude to clarify their vision or work on their craft. Scientists, writers, philosophers, artists. Solitude wasn't a lack of life, it was a necessary condition for profound work and discovery. The man who lives alone taps into this power. He uses his time to build something real and meaningful, fueled by a purpose that he discovered and cultivated in the quiet space of his own being. This sense of direction makes his life feel rich and significant, regardless of his relationship status. Let's explore how this sense of purpose deepens in the absence of constant shared life. When you are accountable primarily to yourself, the question of why you do things becomes more prominent. Why wake up early? Why work hard? Why learn this skill? The answers aren't tied to pleasing a partner, building a shared future home, though those are valid goals, or conforming to societal expectations of coupledom? The answers must be intrinsic. This forces a man to look inward for motivation. He begins to identify what truly gives his life meaning. Perhaps it's the satisfaction of solving complex problems in his work, the dedication to mastering a physical discipline, the joy of creating something tangible, or the commitment to understanding the world through reading and learning. These pursuits become his driving force. Solitude provides the fertile ground for these seeds of purpose to grow. Without the constant ebb and flow of relationship energy, the highs of connection, the lows of conflict, the time spent coordinating, compromising, and maintaining the partnership, there is a consistent energy available to channel into his chosen direction. This focused energy allows for sustained effort and significant progress in his chosen areas. Consider the development of a personal project. In a shared household, finding uninterrupted hours for deep work can be challenging. The man living alone can structure his entire environment and schedule around his purpose. His living space can become a reflection of his priorities. Maybe a dedicated workspace, a home gym, a library, or a studio. His time can be allocated in large, uninterrupted blocks, allowing for the deep concentration required for meaningful creation or study. This sustained focus on purpose creates a powerful sense of momentum and achievement. Each small step taken towards a meaningful goal, finishing a challenging book, completing a difficult workout, making progress on a personal project, learning a new skill, provides an internal reward that is more stable and fulfilling than external validation. This internal reward system reinforces his commitment and builds a virtuous cycle of purposeful action and increasing satisfaction. The Stoic emphasis on living in accordance with nature, particularly human nature, includes the idea of using our capacity for reason to contribute meaningfully to the world and develop our character. Finding purpose is a key way the solitary man fulfills this. He is not just existing, he is actively engaged in becoming the best version of himself and, often, contributing his unique skills or insights to the world around him, albeit perhaps in ways that aren't immediately visible in traditional social structures. Furthermore, a strong sense of purpose acts as an inner anchor, making him less susceptible to the feeling of aimlessness that can plague those who rely on external sources of happiness. His life has direction and meaning derived from within. This inner compass guides his decisions, his use of time, and his energy, ensuring that his journey, though walked alone, is rich, intentional, and deeply meaningful.
Part 6. Builds meaningful connections. Here's the paradox that surprises many. The man who is comfortable in his own solitude often has richer, more authentic relationships with others. Why? Because he isn't using those relationships to fill a void or escape being alone. Think about why people sometimes cling to relationships, even unhealthy ones. Often it's the fear of being alone, the need for constant companionship, or the search for external validation. This neediness can manifest as jealousy, insecurity, demanding behavior, or settling for connections that aren't truly fulfilling, just to avoid being by oneself. The man who has embraced solitude doesn't suffer from this. He knows he is whole and capable on his own. He doesn't need other people to feel okay. This fundamental security changes the dynamic of his interactions. When he chooses to spend time with friends, family, or potential romantic partners, it's not out of desperation. It's out of genuine interest, shared values, or a desire for connection from a place of fullness, not emptiness. He can be fully present in interactions because his mind isn't preoccupied with internal anxiety about being alone later. This lack of neediness is incredibly attractive. People are drawn to individuals who are self-possessed and secure. They sense that the connection is valued for its own sake, not for what it provides to fill a personal lack. The Stoics emphasize the importance of choosing your company wisely. Seneca wrote, "Associate with those who are likely to improve you." The man comfortable in solitude lives by this principle naturally. Because he isn't afraid of being alone, he doesn't feel pressured to spend time with people who drain his energy, compromise his values, or offer only shallow interactions. He can be selective, choosing to invest his time and energy in relationships that are genuinely enriching, stimulating, and supportive of mutual growth. This applies to friendships, family relationships, and yes, even romantic relationships if and when he chooses to pursue them. He enters potential romantic partnerships not out of a societal checklist or a fear of being single, but from a place of discernment. He is looking for someone who complements his already full life, not someone to complete him. This higher standard, born from self-sufficiency, leads to potentially deeper, more meaningful connections when they do occur. In a world where many connections are superficial, driven by social media likes or convenience, the man who has cultivated comfort in solitude seeks depth. His friendships are often fewer but stronger. His conversations are more meaningful. He listens attentively and offers genuine presence. This is because his interactions are rooted in choice and quality, not need or quantity. His ability to be alone makes his time with others more valuable, both to himself and to those he connects with. Part 7. Become unshakable. This is the culmination of the journey. The man who has mastered self-reliance, embraced solitude, developed emotional control, found freedom, cultivated purpose, and built meaningful connections becomes something rare and powerful. He becomes unshakable. Life will always be unpredictable. There will be setbacks, losses, criticisms, and things that don't go according to plan. Most people are deeply affected by these external events. Their happiness rises and falls with their circumstances, the opinions of others, or the stability of their relationships. They are like ships without anchors, tossed about by every wave. The man who has spent time forging his character in the quiet fire of solitude is different. He has built an internal anchor. He understands at a deep level the Stoic principle of distinguishing between what is within his control, his thoughts, judgments, actions, character, and what is outside his control, everything else, other people's opinions, external events, luck, whether a relationship lasts. Because he has practiced relying on himself, managing his own emotions, and finding purpose from within, his sense of well-being is not held hostage by external factors. He doesn't need the market to be up to feel secure, or someone else's approval to feel worthy, or a relationship status to feel complete. His stability comes from his internal state, his virtues, and his commitment to living according to his principles. When faced with criticism, he can evaluate it calmly without being crushed, because his self-worth isn't dependent on external validation. When faced with failure, he sees it as a lesson and an opportunity to adapt, rather than a reflection of his inherent inadequacy, because his confidence is rooted in his capability and resilience. When faced with loss, he grieves, but his fundamental ability to function and find meaning is not destroyed, because his purpose is not solely tied to any single external person or outcome. He has built what the Stoics called the inner citadel. This is a fortress of the mind, a place of reason and virtue that is impervious to external misfortune. The man who lives alone and cultivates his inner life is constantly strengthening this citadel. Every challenge faced alone, every emotion processed independently, every decision made based on his own values adds to its strength. This unshakability is not about being emotionless or indifferent. It's about having the inner resources to meet life's challenges with composure and resilience. It's about knowing that no matter what happens outside of you, you possess the internal strength and clarity to navigate it with dignity and purpose. This deep, quiet strength is magnetic. It inspires trust and respect. People look to such a man in times of crisis because he remains calm. He is a rock, not because he is hard, but because his foundation is solid. He has proven to himself, in the quiet moments of living alone, that he can rely on the most important person in his life, himself. And that knowledge makes him truly free and genuinely unshakable. Your step-by-step guide. Schedule solitude. Actively set aside time to be alone with your thoughts, without distractions, no phone, no TV. Start small, maybe 15-30 minutes a few times a week. Use this time to simply sit, think, or walk in nature. Master a practical skill. Choose one area of self-reliance you'd like to improve.
It could be cooking a few simple, healthy meals, learning basic home maintenance, managing your personal finances more effectively, or planning your week. Focus on one thing and build competence. Start a reflection practice. When challenging emotions arise, frustration, anxiety, disappointment, instead of immediately seeking external validation or distraction, pause. Try to identify the emotion. Ask yourself why you feel this way. Consider journaling about it. Don't judge the feeling. Just understand it. Define your values and goals. Use your scheduled solitude time to think about what truly matters to you. What are your core values? What kind of man do you want to be? What are your long-term goals, independent of anyone else? Write them down. Be intentional with connections. Review your social interactions. Are you spending time with people who uplift you and align with your values, or just filling time to avoid being alone? Practice saying no to social engagements that don't genuinely resonate. Focus on deepening a few key connections rather than seeking many shallow ones. Practice discernment, Stoic judgment. When faced with an external event or someone's opinion, pause before reacting. Ask yourself, is this within my control? What is my reasoned judgment about this, free from initial emotion? Focus your energy only on your response and actions, not the event itself. Embrace discomfort. Self-sufficiency and inner strength are built by facing challenges. Don't shy away from tasks or emotions just because they are uncomfortable. See discomfort as an opportunity to learn and grow. Each challenge overcome, no matter how small, builds resilience. If you like this video and you want to support our new channel, please like this video, subscribe and push the notification bell so you don't miss our new videos.